All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest edition of Dads and Ed. We are pleased that you could join us this evening. My name is Josh Allen, Tech Integration Specialist for Lewis Central Community Schools. I have a beautiful wife and 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. I am also the host that makes sure that everything's in order, and it's not tonight. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But I will throw it over to our special guest introducer, Claire.
His name is Darin Swenson. He has a wife named Darin
Mom.
Mom. I have a sister named Gracie Swenson. I have 2 dogs, and I have a parrot.
What's your name?
Claire.
Oh. So this is Claire. Claire is 8. So you want to say hi before you leave? Wave one more time.
Bye.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye, Claire.
Thanks, Claire. A better introduction than we've ever had.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am Brent Catlett, Director of Technology in Independence, Missouri School District in the Kansas City, Missouri area. I have a beautiful wife, Josie, 4 kids, and 1 on the way in February.
Did we get an official due date with that?
I believe February 18 is the date, and we're not finding out this time, boy or girl.
Wow.
We've always kind of known, so we decided for the heck of this last one, what the heck? Let's not find out and let it be a surprise.
Wow. Good.
Very fun. No way I can do that.
I'm in Devin's boat. Couldn't do it. Good for you guys.
I don't want to, but I'm going with it.
Truth comes out.
Yeah.
It was well done. Very diplomatic. Good job.
Well, if you want to keep in touch with the show, please connect with us online, Twitter @DadsandEd. Use the hashtag DadsandEd. You can check us out on Google plus Dads and Ed. Email us anytime, dadsanded@gmail.com. If you missed part of the show or think it was so awesome you want to share it with your friends, you can go to dadsanded.podbean.com or subscribe in iTunes just by searching the Dads and Ed hashtag. Shout out to Nate Balcom, first tweeter of the night, pointing out how great my tie is. Yeah, thanks, man. Just got home from a school board meeting, so didn't have time to dress down like the other 2. And if I can do anything, it's class up the show. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think you're just trying to cover up for mistakes. I think if you look nice, if you wear the tie, it's going to make people feel a little less like, the technical difficulties are your fault.
Or that I forgot who was going to be our guest this week. We could,
that happens too.
Maybe something, hypothetically speaking.
I'm assuming that has happened to Oprah hundreds of times.
Well, no, Oprah has people that does it for her. I have no one to blame that I didn't read the calendar or the Google Doc correctly, and I invited the wrong person. So if you follow our Twitter account, you know that we have been mentioning that Kurt Rees is going to be our guest all week, and that's my fault. I asked him on the wrong day, and we have Darin Swenson scheduled for tonight. Kurt was very gracious, said he just got home from California, so he actually wasn't disappointed to be able to relax tonight. So we are efforting to reschedule him in November. So thank you to Kurt. Apologies to him and Darin, but it's going to be a great show regardless. Minor freak out this afternoon when Devin sent me a message on Voxer saying, what are we doing tonight?
Hey, we like to keep things, we don't want it to be uneventful. That would be less fun.
Well, and most of the time our technical difficulties, no one necessarily knows all about them, and, we're self-deprecating, so we happily bring them on the show. But this we put out there on Twitter a lot, and so it's kind of hard to hide this one and sweep it under the rug. But all's good. Everybody's cool, so,
That's right.
oh well. All right, let's move on. Water cooler topic for the week. First off, we want to give a little shout out and thoughts and prayers to former guest, friend of the show, Joe Mazza. He was on, I believe, August. I want to say early August or late August. He mentioned on Twitter last week that he has a brain tumor. Am I correct in saying that? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not. He's had it for quite a while. It was not something that he had shared with us. If you remember, that week, my mistake, which really we could just make into our own segment, as I was thinking about it, we can have it recur every week. I accidentally cut the whole show short because I was trying to mute myself and I hit stop broadcast. But anyway, we had a good conversation with Joe after that. He never let anything on. We found out, just like a whole bunch of other people did, via Twitter and Facebook last week. So want to give a quick shout out to him and just let him know that we're thinking about him. You know, he mentioned he's got a 2-year-old son. I believe he surprised us that he's got another one on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So can't imagine what he's going through. And I've gotten the chance to kind of get to know him a little bit more after the fact and kind of through social media get another peek into his life. And that's tough. So thoughts and prayers out to him.
Yeah,
Go
I think
ahead.
the interesting thing there, Josh, you and I were talking about this a little bit before coming on live tonight, but it really brings that whole idea of being a connected person, let alone connected educator, but October being Connected Educator Month, being a connected person, when even though I wouldn't call Joe and I friends necessarily, and I met him maybe this one time on here. But the interactions, we've kind of had some interactions since then, done some other things. Man, it really hits home a little bit more when you actually know people. And I know "know" has a different meaning now than maybe it did a few years ago, but when you kind of know some of these people and you have interactions with them, not that you wouldn't feel bad otherwise, but it's a completely different level, I think, for that, even with the kind of semi-pseudo friendship I think we would have.
Well,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brent.
No, I was just going to say I'm going to tweet out the blog post he wrote too about embracing vulnerability. I read that and I just this was of course post Noah and talking with you guys about his tumor, but then reading that it really hit me from the level of that social media where we're just you guys were talking about in the sense of being so transparent, and it was like he mentioned in the post, you can't hide that. Or he didn't want to hide that, I should say, from guys like us that he's connected with, and certainly many of other educators were he's very connected, of course, to lots of great people. But that struck me. I thought I sometimes have struggled with that balance of my personal with my professional, and how much personal should I share. And so anyways, I just thought that was pretty awesome. And the thing is, though, I would imagine, and I could be wrong here, if I was in that scenario, I don't know what I would do, but if I put it out there, I would imagine there's so many great people out there that are so supportive, and I think I would need that support. And so I know I've reached out to him in different ways, kind of privately and publicly, and I hope that small little bit helps him kind of keep the fight and keep a positive attitude.
You guys bring up a great point about how technology has changed kind of what friends look like, and I know Michelle Baldwin, who we know from the area now out in Colorado, wrote a post this weekend. I don't know if it was this week. I read it this weekend, but about she's really kind of taken a step back from the whole education and social media piece, and because she kind of felt like the family piece was lacking a little bit, and that takes a lot to admit too, and we've all talked about this. It's a tough balance, and what did Jeremy McDonald say? It's like chasing a unicorn or something like that a couple weeks ago, and so it is tough, and I had that same thought, Brent, like what would I do? Not really if that time comes, because we're all going to face that time at some point, but and I think a good friend of ours, who I'm not going to name here, but lost a child late this summer, and it's interesting to watch his post now. How he didn't really post that out on Twitter or Instagram at all, but he's been doing a lot of reflecting there, and hopefully that's therapeutic for him, and try to be supportive of that. And So it's interesting. I mean, it really changes, just the dynamic of what you think of as friends and what have you. So
Yeah, and I think, that there's that element of being too connected or on it too much or whatever, but at the same time, I get so much life and energy from you guys, from others out there that, some that are on here now tonight following us, Nate Balcom, Steven Souter, these guys. I mean, I love them all. I love the interaction. It makes me better. And I have grown friendships with so many of the people that, it's great if we get a chance to see each other, or whether we're in the same city or not, and you're at a conference, all those sorts of things. It's, like today I was looking at Instagram and saw several people out at the deal out in San Francisco, and I was thinking, man, how cool. But the beauty being that I can kind of be there through them, and then I know now they're there, so I can certainly tap them for, hey, what did you learn? What was it like? What did you get from it? All those good things, and of course just keep following them, but in what they're sharing out. So such power in it, and I just was so impressed with the fact that he kind of wrote that post and basically put it out there. And the thing that struck me was the idea of that he wasn't at first sharing it, and then he realized like he needed to, kind of thing. So it was really cool, and I'm definitely praying and thinking about him.
Yeah, and I think I had the same thought about the folks out in San Francisco today. I was trying to follow along with some of what they were doing today too, and felt the same way. I was like, man, it feels like it feels like I am there, kind of with those guys there, but kept saying to them, boy, I wish I was there. Things I didn't know about, and there have been some other posts on Twitter this week. I saw Pernille Rip wrote a post this week about the downside of being connected, which kind of got some traction a little bit. There was a pretty good interaction with her, and I think John Spencer and Will Chamberlain and a few others. And I think the hard thing, as I read her post, while I agreed with some of the things, it's kind of like, man, we can't necessarily have it both ways. You're either connected and you interact with those people to the best of your ability. And I know Will said something in there about, man, he feels bad sometimes when he doesn't reply, or he feels like he needs to be online for for the folks just so he can respond to his online friends and his PLN. But I go back. I think about like Dean Chareski talked about on here, and he's talked about in other places about Twitter and talking to people about Twitter, and you just kind of have to make it your own, And I think it's hard for us to kind of maybe think about having it both ways. We all see the benefits of being connected. I think we all try really hard to also balance that, which we've talked a lot about. Balance that with family time and with being offline and doing things just with our kids or with our wives or whatever it might be. So, that balance is certainly hard, and sometimes I see some of those posts that say, oh, here are the bad parts, and I'm stepping away from Twitter, or I'm getting more into Twitter, or I think it's hard because we can't have it, we can't have it both ways. I can't say, well, I want all the benefits of being connected, but I need to give up all the bad things about it. I think you just have to find your way and make it work the best you can for yourself.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good point.
Speaking of being connected, we also, the three of us, participated in PT Chat, which Joe had started. Last week's topic was Dads and Ed, something we probably should know a little bit about since that's the name of our show and our Twitter account and what have you. But what were some of the takeaways? I was blown away by it, and I've kind of followed PT Chat in the past. It's actually the same time as our state ed chat, and I know, Devin, you do the one-to-one chat, which is at the same time, and so it's a very popular time, Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock for 8 o'clock Central for chats. But I was blown away at the expertise that was in the room, so to speak, on that chat, and just a wide range of people. What were some of the things that you guys took away from it?
I'm forgetting the one idea that I know, Josh, you caught it too, that I was like, what a great idea. It just seemed, just in the realm of engaging dads in education.
Tailgate?
Yeah, was it around having like a football game in the gym or something like that, and just getting them in the building and using sports maybe as that avenue. I just hadn't thought about that, embracing the idea of it's so many, of course, guys enjoy sports, and incidentally, if the Royals hadn't swept the Angels, I'd have been there tonight live from Kaufman. Had tickets and everything, so I was a torn fan last night, wanting them to lose but win. I was like, no, but anyway, and I think that would be a great way though. Like, why not? Like, why couldn't in the Royals in Kansas City area, especially, why couldn't you have like bring dads up for a game or something in this scenario and kind of take advantage of. In fact, it was brought up at our cabinet meeting today that if the Royals make the World Series, it would end up being on parent-teacher conference night. And so we kind of brought it up to the superintendent, like, you realize then there ain't going to be anybody showing up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a fact of life. So, like, taking advantage of that. That was a great chat, and made me think on some topics. Again, I'm still struck. My kids are young yet, so I'm just getting in the game in the realm of being a dad, with kids in actual K-8 school. And man, I struggle with a lot of things, and just because I think of my educational background and then my administrative background, and I'm kind of like the things you could be doing. So there were some great ideas flowing around in that chat for sure.
Yeah, and I like those too. The thing I kept coming back to, and not that I wouldn't use something like the tailgate night or sports, to bring dads in. I sometimes think that what we need to be able to do is make sure that roles aren't being defined that way, so that sports are a dad thing and school or reading night is a mom thing, or so. I think sometimes we can maybe do ourselves a disservice by placating is probably the wrong word, but by having these nights that are barbecue night. I think I saw let dads grill. Well, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that, but are we also defining roles that way too then? I mean, some of those gender roles, I would, and I think we have a skewed perspective maybe because we are, dads that are in education, and I have kids that are in 5th and 3rd grade. I wouldn't think of missing anything, if they had a parent night. But I think I'm seeing that mostly through my education hat, not necessarily my dad one. But I want to make sure that what we do is engage as many parents as we can, dads included. If that means that we have some of these nights where it's come to the baseball game or let's have a tailgate night, great. But I hope that we're not setting up ourselves for failure a little bit and saying, well, when it's reading night, that's when mom comes, because I think it sets a bad example.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I did like one of the schools, and I apologize for not knowing who it is, but they had a group of dads that were actually participating in the chat at the school. So they all brought their computers, and it was pretty cool. I believe they were referred to as FBI, fathers being involved.
Yeah.
And the other program that was shared that I thought was interesting, and actually in talking with my kid's principal, something that they had looked into is watchdogs, dads of great students, which, kind of looking at some of their stuff, it was really getting dads to take a day off, spend one whole day in the school just doing different things, and which I think is a great idea. I do like the tailgate idea, and the piece about, like what you were saying, Devin, with not making sure that this is a dad activity, this is a mom activity. I got into a discussion with someone that night where they were saying, you got to have dad activities, you got to have dad activities. And I said, well, why aren't we, like, get the whole family there? Like, we struggle with getting moms there. And I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't be pushing the dad piece, but make it a family event, and I think you're right on. We had that kind of slap us in the face. It's one of those things that my wife is typically, she grew up Catholic. She's typically the one, if it's a holy day, she takes the kids to church. Mostly Maddox, because he's the oldest, and I stay home with the girls because it messes with our schedule, and we got a million excuses why. But all of a sudden last Easter, Maddox goes, why doesn't Dad go to church?
Yeah.
On the holy days. I go on the weekend. I'm not saying that, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we just kind of fell into that rut, and I think school the same way. So how do we kind of break that cycle a little bit? But
yeah, and I want to say too, both of you guys, and Devin, especially you, in that particular chat, I was doing the best I could. I remember I had something else going on too, so I was kind of bouncing around with the kids or something. But I just always appreciate the lens you look at it through, and kind of being such a pusher of like thinking outside of the box. Like because I know you were saying what you said, and you were tweeting those things, and it was and I hate to say this, but I was learning almost as much from you in that chat as I was anyone else there. But there was a mom too that was kind of saying the same thing as you, that yeah, this isn't just about moms, or that moms can only be room mothers, and which I completely agree. Like, why couldn't I be, or certainly other dads? And it's, you know, maybe a little stereotypical and historical in a sense, but I don't know. It's weird. That's what I kind of. But I give props to Joe Mazza again here, where what an awesome chat. Like, to have moms and dads and teachers and educators converging on one place to chat about it and talk about it is super cool, and certainly appreciated the fact that it was kind of built around dads and education, and
Yeah.
and maybe we inspired that by having him on the show a little bit too, but so that was cool to be involved with that.
Yeah, the coolest thing I think, and Josh mentioned it, was the pictures of the dads that were in that library tweeting on the chat was pretty cool. I'll tell you what, you know, I think we've tried, maybe not hard enough, to get parents involved in some of these spaces, whether it's Twitter or elsewhere. You know, to get parents involved, to get parents talking about it, to get parents talking with educators. Man, I thought that was just the coolest thing, to have you know, a handful of guys sitting in that library tweeting about as part of PT Chat. I thought that was so cool. You know, the thing I took away was thinking about, man, how could I get something like that? You know, maybe it's not a Twitter chat, but something like that, where parents are in my district just talking about school and talking about what's good for kids. And you know, I can think a number of times that, and I've been lucky enough because of my job, I guess, to be able to do this, but where I've gone on field trips with kids, you know, with one of my kids, and I'd be the only dad there. You know, it would be moms. And you know, I think I tweeted this that night, you know, it still goes back to those roles. You know, it seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago, where the reason moms did all those things because there were so many moms that were stay-at-home moms. I mean, that was the role, and good, bad, or indifferent, that's just the way it was. And so they, you know, the roles were kind of defined, and we got to break some of that. And you know, for people in schools in education like us, I think it's not that big a deal to show up and be part of a classroom. But for folks who are just out there in you know, doing any other job, it might not seem like a dad job. And hopefully through the chats and through all the things that we can do, maybe we can start to change that a little bit.
Well, that was the other thing that I got in a discussion with someone about, is I think it's intimidating. I think it's intimidating for a dad who works construction or works with his hands, or you know, even is you know, has an office job, to walk into a school where it's a little bit chaotic. You're intimidated. You don't want to look bad in front of other people. I think it can be intimidating to walk into a school. And you know, I feel the same way when I walk into my kid's school, and you know, don't want to do something wrong, or you want to look like the person in charge, and that's hard to do in a school. So I don't know. Someone didn't really like that comment, but that's all right. Nobody here.
And we do even fall into roles there, and you know, I think that you know, that if we think about people we know too, I think outside of schools, we probably all know guys who didn't play as large a role in their kids growing up, like when they were infants and toddlers and doing some of the diaper changing or the bottles, or you know, all of that stuff. How much of that gets pushed? And then if that's what mom does, then of course they're going to do the school stuff. I mean, it just kind of flows naturally. That never happened for me, and I'm sure it never happened for you guys. I mean, I was doing just as much, or trying to help out just as much as I could when my kids were young. But you know, if we looked at those roles, if we looked at maybe it would be an interesting study, maybe to do a correlation study between dads who are invested in school or involved in school, and see what kind of dad they were to children when they were young. You know, I would bet you that there's a direct correlation between which of those dads were really involved in all the things that you need to do as a parent when kids are toddlers and infants, as to the ones who are going to be involved when their kids are in school and be happy to be at school and make all those events. I don't know. That'd be an interesting study.
Well, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier about getting parents in. And this is something that's been on my radar for a while now, and maybe all of you guys as well. But I I think there is a drastic need to include parents, and I'm going to the technology side of things right now, just in like talking social media, talking about those sorts of things. And it can certainly be, like you mentioned, Devin, conversations just in general about school and what that could be. But in particular, technology, that's something I've been kind of debating. But then I hate to say this, but it means I'm going to have to give up nights if I'm going to be the leader of it, because you can't get them in necessarily during the day. You could get some, but you're not going to get them all, or at least the opportunity to potentially have them. So that's that struggle of me going over and jumping that fence and saying, okay, I want to lead this. I want to do this. I know it's a need, and I think it's a need everywhere.
Yep.
But like that's going to take time, kind of in the evenings and maybe weekends or whatever. And so I still, especially now in Independence, I'm like, man, where there's such a need, and it just keeps coming back to me. And then, like, when I was in that chat, I was thinking the same thing again, like maybe I ought to do this, So
yeah, I agree.
Well, and I wonder too. I know we need to move on, but the three of us are all in a metropolitan area, and there's just so much to do, and there's so many places you want to take your kids to. I'm not saying it's easier in a smaller school, but I mean, we're just pulled in so many directions. So much, entertainment and soccer and baseball and football and, how do we get school to be the forefront and the value that it needs to be?
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, if you can figure that out, tweet us at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. We will promise to give you any commission that we make off your idea. We would be happy to do that.
That's right.
All right, moving on. Water cooler topic of the week. I had the good fortune. My wife works, I believe I've mentioned in the past, she's the local Moms of Preschoolers MOPS group coordinator, and so she had the opportunity to go to their national conference this weekend, which meant single dad duty for this guy. For 4 days. Happy to report day number 1. The only thing I forgot was my own lunch and a coat, so I had to run through the rain. Friday, I was lucky enough to take the day off. Got to spend it with the 2 girls when my son went to school. Got to go to Dad's and Donuts and spend some time with the girls by themselves. I'll talk a little bit more about that later when we do our app and site. But a great weekend, all in all, in the beautiful Nebraska area. Fall in Nebraska. So anyway, cool. That's my moment of the week.
Cool.
Go ahead, Devin.
Me? All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with so Claire introduced me today, which she's great at doing. She did that once. I was on with Jamie Fath's Iowa State kids students one night, and Claire introduced me there too, and she loves doing stuff like that. But my moment of the week was I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but she was all excited, was all nervous all day long because 3rd grade student council voting was happening, and she got voted to student council, and she couldn't have been more excited. It was just kind of fun to see her. She's the kid who, she really is just nice to everybody, and she's a little quirky, and I think sometimes her maybe quirkiness and weirdness goes over her head. Maybe people think, what the heck is she doing? Because she, you'll see her out anywhere. Look out the window and she'll be outside and she'll just be talking to herself and doing little dances, and it's just like Erin, my wife and I are looking at her, what in the heck is she doing? But she just doesn't care. She's just her own little person, and so she was all excited. So her political career has started. She is now student council member in the 3rd grade at College View Elementary.
Nice.
Awesome. Go Claire.
That's right.
Mine's pretty simplistic. I'm gonna go with something simple, but it makes my day every day. I got a little guy, Oliver, who just turned a year in August, and he's walking, of course, now and very mobile. But anyway, and the move down here to Kansas City allowed me and my wife to kind of reorganize some things, and both being finances and, of course, house. And and jobs, and my wife's staying home, which is fantastic. And so she's home with the kids, so there's no like having to worry about who's picking them up and all that good stuff. And so I come home, and she's just been awesome. He usually has dinner ready, and I mean, it's just awesome. But so my little guy, every time I come, I mean, he just lights up when he sees me, and he comes running at me, and I kind of lift him up and give him a quick toss in the air, and he laughs, and I snuggle him in, give him a kiss, and that makes it makes it worthwhile, you know. And there isn't a day at this point where that kid doesn't do it. And I'm like, I know there's gonna come a day where it doesn't matter anymore that I come home, but it's just awesome. I'm so blessed and lucky to have these kids that just adore me, no matter how bad of a dad I am. I'm still the awesome guy, you know. So it's I don't know, such a humbling thing to be a dad, and just totally blessed.
Absolutely. Well, we are very pleased to be joined by Darin Swenson. Darin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Darin?
Absolutely.
Living the dream. I never thought I'd have the opportunity when I first watched my first Dad and Ed episode. Marked it on the bucket list. Now I can check it off.
Check that sucker off.
Nice.
You and your 5-gallon bucket.
Well, we had to go
some dirt with it later.
Yeah, we had to go into executive session and re-vote 2 different times, Darin, to get you in there. No.
And then even once we had it decided, Josh tried to preempt you with Kurt Reese for the night.
Right.
We had you on the calendar.
Yeah, you could tell Josh was basically the one who didn't want you on the show, and Devin and I voted in. No, I'm just kidding.
The problem is Josh controls all the Google Plus. He controls who we're having.
I also noticed he decided to go portrait mode tonight.
I'm in.
Nice touch.
Well, my tech troubles are well documented, as you tweeted out earlier, Darin. So I'm going MacBook and iPad, and so that you don't have to look up my nose, I tilted the iPad portrait view so it stands up and a little better kind of side profile because I'm reading one screen and not looking at the other, but that's how we roll. That's how the seven-year-old MacBook rolls. So
Nice.
Anyway, now that you've introduced yourself, why don't you introduce yourself to the tens of listeners that we have because of our guest?
All right. Yeah, my name is Darin Swenson. I am a high school social studies teacher and tech integrationist and volleyball coach in Minnesota, Litchfield, Minnesota. We're a smaller town, about 6,500 people in the town. Graduate roughly 130, 140 kids a year. I've been here. This is my 11th year in Litchfield, and this is my 3rd year as a part-time tech integrationist. I have a lovely wife who's a 4th grade teacher, Tara, and then I have 3 kids. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. 2 oldest are boys, and then my youngest daughter, Davidi.
Cool. Talk about you just got your tech integration part of that just happened last year. Is that right?
I've been phasing into it.
Okay.
About three years ago, we started to look more at a technology integrated education system. We didn't go one-to-one right away. We got a classroom set of iPads. We get some classrooms that have 1 or 2 iPads or a computer in the room or things like that. I got a grant for some iPods in my room at one point, and it was I found that I spent quite a bit of my time helping people with new things, trying new things. And when I talked with one of our principals, said how this is something that I enjoy doing it, and I see a need for it, and the way our district is moving, I think there's going to be an increased need for it. So over the past couple of years, the first year they took 1 class away from me and freed up a little bit of my time to work with some other teachers. The next year they took 2 classes away, and then this year we went all in, and we are 2-to-1 iPads in our kindergarten, 1-to-1 iPads in our 1st through 5th grade, and then 1-to-1 MacBook Airs in our 6th through 12th grade. So they took another class away from me. So now I teach 2 classes in the morning, and I spend the rest of my time with tech integration. And then we also have a elementary dean of students who does part-time tech integration too. So that, yeah, it's kind of been phased in, which is nice. It's been a nice change. I was glad it wasn't necessarily something where I got ripped out of the classroom completely right away. People always ask me, what do you like doing more? And I like doing them both. And I think that it can be a very challenging a thing, because it's one of those situations where when you're doing one, you're thinking about the other. So when I'm teaching, I'm thinking about what I can do to help this one teacher. And then when I'm helping that teacher, I'm like, all right, I got to get ready for tomorrow. And so there's a challenge there, but it's fun. It's refreshing. It's something that keeps you on your toes and keeps some balance. I shouldn't say balance. It keeps me from getting. I think it keeps me from getting stuck in like a rut where you just do the same thing all.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Josh, what did you do?
Oh, I wish I could take credit for that. I'm not that good.
I wish I could take credit for that.
Darin, come back. Come on. He was joking about it. I didn't know he was really serious about having internet issues.
He said that earlier. He really wasn't just giving you a hard time. He was worried about some internet
No,
issues.
he was worried about it. All right. While we effort to get Darin back, we will jump down in the schedule for the evening. I have the app or site for this week, and this goes back to my dad moment of the week. On Friday afternoon.
Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that's all right.
Are you back?
I'm back. I couldn't tell if I lost Dads and Ed or Dads and Ed lost me, but I think I lost Dads and Ed.
Don't try and always blame us. We've been working for a year to try and figure out our problems, and they're not all fixed, but we're working on it.
I'm starting to think this might be a clever a plan, a year in the making.
See,
all my digs at your Wi-Fi, you're like, let's get them on here, and then we're gonna cut them off.
If your Wi-Fi would be working, you would have heard me say, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to do that to Darin's computer. So, good try, though.
All right.
Hey,
Well, I'm back, and hopefully I stay a little longer this time.
Darin, you mentioned that you're one-to-one with a couple different devices. What's a tool or app or website that your teachers are really jumping on right now?
It's kind of a mix. It kind of depends on where the teacher is at in their comfort level. Not a lot of the teachers that may have not been like super comfortable with stuff. They're kind of gravitating towards the things that the kids get excited really easily about. So for some review activities, you guys have mentioned Kahoot. There's some that really love Kahoot. There's some, as far as management systems, we're starting to get into Google Classroom, which I like. I wanted to get better, and I think it will.
Easy, buddy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's got potential. It's got potential. I use it. I was an Edmodo user for about 3 years, but I knew most of my teachers were going to go Google Classroom, so I decided that I better join them. I was very comfortable with Edmodo, so if anybody wanted to do that, I was still comfortable helping them. But I wanted to get familiar with Google Classroom, so like I say, it's got a lot of potential, and I think it's going to get better. Personally, one that I'm really liking this year is Flipgrid, and I think you guys have talked about Flipgrid before on the program.
I don't think so.
Not.
No, I can't say we have. Flipgrid, tell us more.
I've talked about
it was developed by the
Flipboard.
Okay, yep. No, it's this one's different. Flipgrid, it's a very simple interface, and the basic idea is you have this, grid in which you post a question to, and then anybody has a link, and you can set the restrictions on this, so you can make the link private, or it has to be, password protected, or you got those various levels. So you pose a question, and then anyone with the link can go on, and then they can post up to a minute 30 video response. and it just populates a grid the more they get added, and then you can watch them, and you can favorite them, give them a heart or something like that. And the reason I wanted to I use it on a weekly basis, and I start on a Sunday night, and I pose a question that either directly relates or semi-relates to the topics we're going to be covering that week. And then over the course of the week, kids can give their responses to it. And then on Fridays, based on what kids say, we can use that as kind of a discussion starter for that Friday class. And one of the things I really like about it is that the first one I did, I said, just tell me a little bit about yourself. And I learned more about my kids in that than I have in your standard tell me a little bit about yourself in class scenario. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't know if kids felt a little bit more comfortable saying something when they're not physically present in front of all their peers. But I found that it got me really excited after the first one to hear that. And a lot of kids that, like you say, are not gonna say a whole lot during class. They have the opportunity to give their voice. And we have another unique situation. I have a student that has an interpreter, a sign language interpreter in class, and we've figured out a way to allow him to actually use a grid as well by typing out his response, and then the computer will play it as he signs his response. So it's another way for him to get involved and have his voice heard too. So personally, it's a tool I really like right now, and I think there's a lot more potential to it once I uncover it a little bit more.
Yeah, I like it. Do you pay for it, or do you use the free version, Darin?
I pay for it.
Yeah.
I think for a year it's $60, and it's one of those, you get what you pay for, and $60 in my mind is pretty dirt cheap compared to a lot of other programs. So I've been more than happy with it. We used it this summer too when we did some professional development. Over the summer, we led some summer sessions, and then a book chat on Teach Like a Pirate, and we use that with our teachers in order to keep the one of the methods we use to keep the conversation going on during the week, and also to model different tools that they can use. So
very cool. Darin, change the subject a little bit, coming back to you being a dad and being in education. Has becoming a dad and the kids you have, has that impacted you in what ways in the realm of your view on education?
It's one of those things when it's definitely impacted my view. I look at my students in a whole different light because I realize the things that they go through. My kids, I'm not saying my kids have a tough time, but I look at what they do in home and the things that they're expected to do, the things that they want to do, and then the things that they're kind of requested to do at school can sometimes be conflicting. So that's one thing that's really changed my mind. So I'm not being very good at making this clear. So let me clear it up a little bit more. I used to be a teacher that, all right, guys, here's the assignment, and I want 25 copies of the same thing back. It's all going to look the same. I don't care what you care about. I don't care what you are interested in. I don't care the method that you prefer to do things. It's going to be a lot easier on me if you just all do the same thing, because that's going to give me a very easy way to compare you all. And that's how I started out. And that's probably partly, you go back to the idea, you teach the way you were taught, you coach the way you were coached. And over time, relatively quickly, probably not as quick as I would have liked to, I started changing that, because I realized that not every kid is interested in the same stuff. Not every kid is interested in writing. Not every kid is interested in presenting. Kids have the ability and interests that are varied. And I think we need to. And this is one thing I know I need to do. I need to do a better job of giving kids those opportunities, and it's really challenging. I'm not going to lie there. I find it incredibly challenging to do that and still find a way to know that the kids are learning what is expected of them. But that's one thing. for my kids, because my kids are different. It's kind of a cliche that everybody says, oh, our kids, are completely different, but they are. And that's one thing that has helped me in my classroom, is that I realize my students are different, and I have to allow them to be different, and that's okay.
Awesome. And can I follow up on that, gentleman? I know he's a coach. Like, I know you mentioned like coach as you were coached and teach as you were taught. Were there goods and bads from that you pull from now, or people that kind of stuck out to you in the realm of you becoming coach and becoming teacher that have impacted that?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I have this one like person that I can identify specifically at a key moment. There's a lot of different little moments that have added up. I took a course this summer for my coaching license, and that's one thing that they brought up, like, who's the one coach that made an impact? And I think it's a combination of all. I think everybody that we come in contact with has an effect on us, and it might be a great effect, it might be a little effect, but it has an effect. And I'm glad to say I never had a coach that when I got older, I'm like, I'm not going to be like that guy. I think I was blessed with having a number of coaches that were intense, competitive, wanted to compete, but also realized that it's not everything. That there's some bigger lessons to be learned out there. So, like I said, I was fortunate in that.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it just means getting the good part too.
He'll be back. Give him about a minute.
It's good for the podcast.
It is
I
good.
like that pause and to know what's going on. All right, while we're waiting on that, I will jump back into the app inside of the week, because that seems to trigger Darin's internet working better.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned on Friday I was hanging out with the girls, and my 4-year-old wanted to play Candyland as the 2-year-old or almost 2-year-old was sleeping, and we couldn't find our Candyland game. It has been destroyed after however many years, and we don't know where the pieces went. And so, doing a quick search on the App Store, I found Sweetland, which is kind of like a similar, like, knockoff type game. And so it's $1.99, and I'll tweet the link out here in just a second. But Apple has started doing these app bundles, and you can get that and Slides and Ladders, which we called it Shoots and Ladders. That's the board game that we had. So you can either get each of them for $1.99. You can get the bundle for $2.99. What's really cool is if you have the Apple TV, your device becomes the controller, and the game board shows up on the TV. So it works out really slick. Very cool. I've been looking for some apps that do that kind of thing. There's supposed to be a racing game that does it. I haven't got it to work all that well, but so Sweetland to replace some of your older board games that are falling apart. And now that Darin's back.
Darin, there's a button that Josh has. If you talk too long on an answer, he gets it, and then it screws the internet up on your side.
If my wife were watching this, which I don't think she is, she would be coming up here and telling me to cut it short. I'm the guy who was supposed to give a 5-minute speech in a college class one time, and I sat down, and my buddy goes, "You were up there for 17 minutes." I do get a little long-winded sometimes, so that is fine.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah, it's all good. So you were talking about coaching, and I'd asked this question of you in the past because I'd seen you tweet it out. Your high school, and this is foreign to us quote-unquote Southerners, and by Southern I mean like 3 or 4, was it 6 hours away, something like that?
About that, yep.
Yeah, so it's not that far, but relatively speaking. You have a high school hockey program, is that correct?
We do. Yep, it's joined with a neighboring school. Neither us or the school next to us is probably large enough to sustain their own. So it's one of those co-op situations. Yep. So we got hockey.
Is that a common thing?
In Minnesota, it's kind of weird. It depends on where you are. Like I said, I grew up in northern Minnesota, but we are way too small. Graduated with about 50 kids, so we did not have a hockey program. But there is a number of quite a few schools that have hockey, and as far as co-op, there's quite a few for that too. Yeah.
We do have fishing teams in some high schools in Nebraska, so I understand. I would think that'd be big in Minnesota too. You have the water.
The fishing?
10,000 lakes.
Yeah. I don't know of any schools that have school-sponsored fishing.
So work on that.
I'll look into
it. Oh, what else? Devin, you got another question?
Yeah, we talked earlier a little bit about, October is Connected Educator Month, and I know that all of us on here have connected with each other, at least initially, probably online somewhere. Can you talk a little bit about what impact that has had on you in both of your roles, both as a classroom teacher and as a tech integration person, having people that you can be connected with online?
Yeah, it's as far as a classroom teacher, it's helped a ton because, as I said before, when I first started teaching, I had a different philosophy, and that's changed. And I say a lot of it has to do with the people that I've connected with on Twitter. They kind of opened my eyes to things, giving me ideas, giving me encouragement. So definitely as a classroom teacher and as a tech integrationist, I couldn't do it without it. It's amazing the times where somebody comes with a question to me, and I'm like, I don't know, but I know a bunch of people who might, so I can go online and, just tonight, I didn't know that of a way to delay sending an email in Gmail. So I jumped on Twitter. Within seconds, I had a couple of responses. Josh was one of them who sent a response back. So it's impacted my philosophy. It's impacted my outlook. And it's been positive. There are, you guys were talking earlier about the balance. I do find, that struggle sometimes to pull away from it sometimes, to step away from it sometimes. But at the same time, I don't think I would abandon it.
All right. Darin, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We do apologize for the confusion. Glad we could slow down your internet. Have you here on the show finally. Do you have time to stick around?
I'll be honest. It was my worst fear that my Wi-Fi was going to drop.
Every week, buddy. I totally know where you're coming from. Every week. That's the only. Now until October 20th, that's about the only thing I'll be thinking about. Praying that I get a new computer in that can handle the internet that I upgraded.
You should have a lot of things to think about, Josh. I don't think it's just the internet.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently, I have too many since I invite like half the country to be a guest on Dads and Ed.
It's good to have a backup plan. Who knows?
Okay. I have already shared the app site, so let's jump down to Twitter follow of the week. Mr. Catlett, you're
yes,
up.
Sir. I'm up. All right, I'm just getting ready to tweet here, so I will shoot that out right now. I'm going with, oh crud, I forgot to put, somebody retweet me there and put Dads and Ed, hashtag please, I just sent it.
Yep.
Off of my account, I forgot. Anyway, I'm going with Ted Huff, but he is at Ted Hiff on Twitter, which I'm not even sure what that's all about. I just realized that tonight when I went to, because I've never met Ted, and I've participated in many chats with him. He's a big MoEd chat from Missouri's Ed Chat, does some others. He was involved in another one tonight. I saw him, like, this guy he's just out there and sharing, and he's so easy to connect with and ask questions. He's a middle school principal, and I've gotten a lot from following him and just interacting with him. He just seems like a great guy, and I'm looking forward to one of these days getting to meet him at something down here in the Missouri area, hopefully. And so I'm going with him. I just appreciate all the work he's done, and that he shares out, and I think he does a really good job of doing that and involving himself and stuff. So definitely worth the follow.
Maybe we should have one Darin Swenson have a little chat with him about appropriate Twitter usernames and why you should change them and not have random numbers at the end. Huh, Darin?
I don't have any random numbers or underscores.
Hey now. All right, nothing wrong with the underscore posse.
That's right.
I was a young, naive Twitter user. Then I got harassed on Twitter, and I changed it.
I am fortunate enough that I have been on Twitter since like 2007. So the former Twitter name that I had, no one gave me crap about it. It didn't make any sense. I knew what it meant. No one else did, and I got smart early and changed it before anyone could give me a hard time about it because no one was on it yet.
Were you an underscore pioneer?
Oh, probably. I mean, Tim Cook does it now, so I mean, it's kind of mainstream now. I mean, all the hip kids do it, but I don't know. It's kind of like Twitter. I mean, I was on Twitter in 2007, and now high school kids are doing it. Like, how cool am I? Trendsetter.
You were like Twitter user number 7, weren't you?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, I'm doing date night spot, I believe, tonight. At least that's what I planned for.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, my wife and I were in Chicago over the weekend. We went to actually we're in Indiana. We went to the Notre Dame football game on Saturday. And every time we go to Chicago, we have to hit up Gino's East for pizza. And so I'm gonna tweet out the link in their hashtag. Gino's East is awesome deep dish pizza. I would say, and the few that I've had in Chicago, that's the best deep dish pizza. It's a big sausage patty on the pizza. Covers the entire pizza. My friend Jason Markey would say that it's Lou Malnati's, which we've had both in the same day, which you should never do. I mean, it's
Wow.
asking to have a heart attack if you do that. But we had both in one day, one time, and they're essentially the same, but they're both really, really good. But Gino's East, awesome place down on Superior, down by the Hancock Building in downtown Chicago. Great place for pizza. We were just there on Friday night. So when you get to Chicago, Gino's East deep dish pizza, the sausage patty one is delicious.
I need to do that. I'm a big pizza fan. Never been to Chicago for an extended amount of time. I need to try that out.
It was good. Aaron and I, we got there Friday, and we stopped into Jason's school, Jason Markey's school, and said hello. And one of the things we talked about, we're there for about 20 minutes or so, but we stopped and talked pizza. And he's a big Lou Malnati's fan. Jason's kind of a foodie. He's kind of particular about his food. And so he was trying to push us to lose, and then we got into this whole discussion about this new pizza place called Pequod's, and my wife and I decided, you only get one shot at this. If we go to this other place and don't like it, we kind of messed up. We're only in Chicago once or twice a year, so we decided to forego the new place and stuck with the tried and true Gino's. So Gino's East in Chicago.
Sounds good. Darin, I don't know if you follow Steven Sauter, but Coach_Sauter says don't disrespect the underscore posse. First rule of the underscore posse is to not talk about the underscore posse. So
I think you're talking frozen screen.
I do too. It's a good side profile though. All right, gentlemen, anything we need to clean up? Royals are in the ALCS. Brent's going to get us all tickets to come down.
Yeah, World Series against San Francisco, maybe.
That's right. Efforting a guest for the 20th, for October 20th. We're efforting a guest. We're just trying to hammer down the date, so we won't share names yet. But efforted the guest. They've responded, just kind of trying to figure out if the 20th will work. Otherwise, we can just throw a name on there and see what happens.
Maybe
we should be able to send that out in the next couple days, I would say.
Maybe someday for a show we should just have an open forum. Whoever gets the link gets to join us.
And it's just like a drawing, like we just pick a name out of a hat and throw it out there, and they have to join us.
No, we just make the hangout public.
Oh.
And I mean, I can't see anything going wrong with that.
Except one thing, I think our egos could take a hit, right? I mean, what if nobody came?
Right.
I
We might
thought
have to
about it that
plant.
way.
We have to plant somebody.
I mean, I really like hanging out with you guys, but if we did this whole big thing where it's open forum, we want somebody to just come and join us, and nobody does. That's
Oh,
telling. I don't know that I want to do
crickets.
that. We had to fill a whole hour.
Just waiting. Darin, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to connecting online, continued connections online, and best of luck the rest of the year and the volleyball season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I hope to get more involved in the connection aspect once volleyball wraps up here in a few weeks. But yeah, enjoyed it. Sorry about I dropped out for a third time there. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I caught it.
We did.
I
I was trying to give you crap, and then we realized you weren't there. So
that was me, Josh. I just hit the button because he's a Duke fan, so I had to do it.
Oh, and I got called out for having an accent.
Hey. I wasn't calling you out. I was just saying we need to have more people with accents on. That's what I'm saying.
The weird thing is, I think I sound just like you guys.
Well, you're wrong.
Well, the good news is, Darin, you can go back and listen to the show anytime you want. Just go to dadsanded.podbean.com or search iTunes and subscribe to our iTunes channel. Just search Dads and Ed, and you can listen to it there.
Nicely done.
All right, we'll see everyone on October 20th, 8:30 Central.
Sounds good. Night.
Night, everybody.